Welcome back. I'm talking to Neil Sanders, who is author of Your Thoughts Are Not Your Own. Now, these psychological techniques, Neil, are not new, are they?
Oh no, absolutely not. No, I mean,
and they've been used in warfare.
Well, especially in warfare. But you've got to realise that you're in essentially a constant state of war, according to the status quo, because they don't want the status quo to alter. The sort of at the very beginning of the First World War, there was an agency that set up by Lord Northcliffe, which was called Wellington House. Wellington House was the precursor to Tavistock, and it had people like Walter Lippmann was involved in it, and Edward Bernays was also involved in Wellington House. And what their job was specifically to do was to spread propaganda to convince people to want to fight in the First World War. Mm-hmm. And what they were doing is they were spreading lies, essentially, about the German army's treatment of Belgian civilians. And this would basically be that they were mutilating children, they were cutting their arms and legs off, not killing them. They were cutting their arms and legs off so that many years later they could not come back and fight. And there was also the scenario of gang rapes. Okay, what they would do is they would basically round up all the women and then they'd all take their turn and cheer on whilst there was a mass rape. Mm. This transpired to be not true. Mm-hmm. Okay, this was the whole point. Even embedded Allied journalists at the time were reporting back saying this is just not the case. Mm-hmm. This is being used to demonise him. Kaiser Wilhelm at the time was portrayed as a ruthless brute and was given the nickname the Butcher of Berlin. Where have we heard that? The Butcher of Grozny, the Butcher of Baghdad. I even saw something saying that Assad of Syria was a butcher the other day. So that's basically...
Yeah, they're demonising him now, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely, they're demonising him with an incredible double bluff.
Like Cameron was there on the TV the other day, slating Assad.
Yeah,
it's...
Well, it's ridiculous. I mean, there are already videos on YouTube of the Free Syrian Army, which is essentially the same CIA-trained Al-Qaeda Muslim fundamentalists, poor disillusioned fools that think that their freedom fighting is actually being coerced by the CIA and the US military. Mm-hmm. They're using poison gas on rabbits. They're showing tests. It's a real double bluff, because basically they've come out and said, if you use chemical weapons on your civilians, we're going to attack. And they've said, we haven't got any. Mm-hmm. So you better not use them, which is ludicrous. I mean, the question is posed, do you think that the Syrian nation is absolutely stupid? What would be the benefit of gassing their own civilians? Even if let's take it as read that he's just bad, that he just hates his civilians, he's not suicidal. He knows that would cause an immediate response. Mm. It's just what is happening is a narrative is being set up, just like weapons of mass destruction, just like any of these things, Libya's weapons of mass destruction, and Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. And again, it's propaganda before you go in.
There's a new film come out about a raid on, is it the American embassy in Iran?
Yeah, Catherine Bigelow's
supposedly, what I've read is that it's complete propaganda.
I'm not surprised. She's also doing one, I may be confused actually, she's doing one about the raid on the Osama bin Laden compound. Right. She's the one that did Hurt Locker, which is, again, officially, Hurt Locker received no funding from the Pentagon and stuff like that, but it was touted afterwards by the Pentagon as being a huge recruitment tool. Mm-hmm. So we can read between the lines that is the sort of level of double propaganda that happens in films. There's a famous film, a John Wayne film called The Green Berets, that was completely scripted by the military, but they removed all thanks to the military in the credits, so that it wasn't so obvious that this was done. And just to go back to the propaganda thing, the most recent one was the concept of babies being dashed to death, dragged out of incubators before we went to get the Butcher of Baghdad, Saddam Hussein, in the first. Yeah,
they often will put stories out that pull at the heartstrings.
Absolutely.
We've had this with the Leveson rubbish, which is Madeleine McCann's parents' phone hacked, Millie Dowler, now some girls, their parents' phones hacked. It's just
I agree with you.
Obvious psyop.
Yeah, I agree with you that A, that's not hacking, and B, I agree with Ian Hislop of all people for a strange reason. There are laws against all the things that were done. We do not need a new set of rules to come in to do it.
When someone commits a murder, do they all get round and say, we really need to change these laws on murder because someone's committed murder? It was already illegal, as you say, everything in... Well, but to me,
Plus,
it's a huge exaggeration what they were doing. They were listening to people's messages, which is wrong, but it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not akin to murdering 56 people.
No, it's not. And the other thing that's interesting is that the one that really pulled on people's heartstrings is the fact that Millie Dowler's messages were apparently erased by the journalists has come out to be almost certainly not true. Right. What has actually happened is that the messages have stayed on the phone for so long that the phone company has deleted them to free up the thing. Again, not sure if that is actually true or whether that's the press sort of covering their own backs, but it's interesting that the thing that sparked off such great interest in it is, like you say, reprehensible as it is, it's either a crime or it's not.
To me, the whole Leveson thing is a problem, reaction, solution, psyop, right?
Absolutely.
Now, the question is, what's it really been set up for? So initially it was put out a year and a half ago on the date of 7/7, and they knew they were going to do it because, as I've revealed, the domain name was bought before these stories came out. So to me, it was masking certain things about 7/7 initially, but they've also destroyed a whole load of documents at the News of the World. That was possibly another motive. But to me, I think there's been a long-term motive, perhaps, which is to change the rules by which the media operate.
Well, one of the things that they said, one of the initial things that they said is, right, from now on, if you're a police officer and you're whistleblowing against the police themselves, don't go to the press, go internally within the police. Well, if you were cynical, you could say, well, that's basically just allowing for an internal cover-up straight away. What's clever about this is it's being played very, very cleverly by David Cameron. David Cameron's going, I refuse to do this, I refuse to do this.
That's theatre.
He will cave in because the public will clamour for it.
But for me, right, we've already discussed, Neil, that the mainstream media are in the pockets of the intelligence agencies, right? They're controlled by them. So they already have control over the media. So this, the media need to be controlled, it's absolute bull, okay? Now, so when these recommendations come in, I can't help feel you've got the mainstream media here. They've got total control of that. They've got this thing over here, which is the alternative media, and they're starting to get control of the alternative media, by the way. And I will be covering this in my upcoming talk. But they haven't got control of all of it.
No.
So they then create a scandal out of them. They bring in the new rules, and they're going to apply the new rules to them.
Yeah, that's the thing that, particularly again with like going back to the Jimmy Saville thing, it's going to be so that, or the intention could well be that you're not allowed to speculate without absolute concrete facts. And even if you are with concrete facts, due to the libel laws, I mean, like Scallywag magazine, which you should all go and read that article, by the way, that was shut down because John Major sued them. And due to the nature of libel laws in this country, you can tie somebody up in litigation for literally years and years and years and set the level that you want to sue them at. So essentially, what John Major sued Scallywag about, Scallywag put an article saying that he was having an affair with Edwina Currie, who we've also discussed was covering up paedophiles. Okay, that turned out to be true. Despite the fact that it was true, due to the nature of the libel laws, he was able to sue them out of existence.
Right.
So this is the problem, and this is what's going to happen with the alternative media as well. It's basically some sort of rule will come in whereby you won't be able to do it. To me, it's almost like this thing that they were trying with comedy, saying you can't make a joke that could be offensive to somebody else's sensibilities, somebody else's religion, somebody else's lifestyle, and such like that. It's presented in such a way that it's for the greater good of the public, and it's for fairness. It's to be fair and balanced. But it's not, is it? It is a control, and I think that's the whole thing. I think this is a real. You need to take a real big step back from this.
And do you think the internet is a target?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've already tried the various different things throughout the past couple of years. You know, the bills that they were going to do to Internet 2 and stuff like that. It was met with huge outcry by the public. One thing about propaganda, one thing about entering a war, one thing about doing anything is that you've got to convince the public that it's what they want. Problem, reaction, solution, the Hegelian dialectic, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, whatever you want to call it. You've basically got, like, it's why there's false flag operations before wars. Like Pearl Harbor is the classic one. Nobody wanted to go to. You know, basically the majority of Americans had German ancestry because America is a migratory country. So nobody wanted to actually go to war against Germany. That's why basically they only declared war against Japan. The day after Pearl Harbor, 1 million Americans signed up.
Right. Just to go back to the Leveson thing, it is incredible how they've managed to include all of these celebrities, Hugh Grant and Steve Coogan, who are sitting there slightly annoyed at the fact that they've had a telephone message listened to, and actually believing that they are somehow important in all of this. That they have actually been used as unwitting assets.
You know what's ludicrous about this, okay, is Steve Coogan has had huge amounts of unsavoury things coming out in the past about his affairs with Courtney Love, his drug use and stuff like that. We all know about that, okay. Hugh Grant got caught with Divine Brown, you know, the prostitute, okay. The much worse things have happened to these celebrities as there is in the public eye. I personally do not know what information was actually gleaned from listening to Steve Coogan or Hugh Grant's answer phone messages.
Well, yeah. Just consider that. I've said this before. What kind of things do people leave on people's answer messages? Normally, it's...
Sorry, I missed you. I'll call you back.
Exactly. Hi, Neil. Richard here. Can we do an interview? Call me back. Yeah. That's the kind of thing. You don't generally give a whole lot of sensitive information in a message.
You know what's even more about this? I would suggest that people go back and watch this program called Newswipe by Charlie Brooker. It's all available on YouTube. He talks about blagging and phone hacking, as it was called. That's where they've got the term hacking from the media. He talks about this 2 years before this actually came out. So this was well known. It was publicised on BBC 4. Nobody seems to care. People don't realise that the amount of intricate sort of intertwining between government and media. In England, there was a famous case a few years ago.
But Neil, you say government, right? The problem is... all of the MPs have got whipped up in this fake scandal, this fake phone hacking scandal, and they're in Parliament getting angry about it. So they're manipulating all of those politicians as well. They're duping them into thinking that there's a scandal going on here.
And with a lot of those politicians, I wonder if they've been told, do you want your name to come up in relation to this childcare home in Wales? Well, then you clamour, and I didn't get a harumph out of that guy. You watch your ass. Right, the one that was on in England was basically... it was a few years ago when the Labour government was still in, and the Sun ran a campaign to get migrants out of Britain, stop this tide of migrants and stuff, which is the usual right-wing claptrap that's, again, phony bone of contention. What happened after about a week of this campaign was David Blunkett, the then Home Secretary, deigned to do an interview with the Sun and basically said, look, I don't think you were right, but the Sun's campaign and the response from the public has proved to me that we, the Labour government, will change our policy. Journalist Peter Oborne, I forget which publication he was working for at the time, but he came across a thing called the Downing Street Grid. The Downing Street Grid is their political and media calendar for the next month. He found the previous, 2 months back, previous grid, before the scandal had actually broken, detailing the exact words that Blunkett was going to use in his interview to respond to the clamouring from the Sun. So the Sun gets to look like it's people's champion, the people get to think that they are doing something, and the government looks magnanimous in the way that it kowtows to the public pressure.
Right, okay. The only problem I've got, Neil, is to determine which page I'm actually going to use. But that's all I've got time for today, Neil. It's great talking to you as ever, and just remind us where people can get your book.
From Richplanet, and also from neilsandersmindcontrol.com, and also there's a load of videos on there as well, so if you've not seen previous ones, please check it out. Oh, and I've also got a Facebook thing, which is slightly paradoxical because I hate Facebook, but please like it so I feel like I'm popular.
All right. Thanks, Neil. It just remains for me to say, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. I'm Richard D. Hall. Good night.